Contact imminent. The patrol ship Vigilance drifted silently through the void at the edge of Imperial space, its sensors constantly sweeping the darkness beyond the established borders. Lieutenant Commander Ilara Voss stood at the bridge's main viewport, her sharp eyes reflecting the distant stars as she supervised the night watch. The Vigilance was one of dozens of border patrol vessels tasked with monitoring the Empire's vast frontier, a normally uneventful assignment that suited the Empire's desire for order and control. "Another quiet shift," remarked Tactical Officer Krell, suppressing a yawn as he monitored the sensor array. His scaled fingers tapped idly against the console, the boredom evident in his posture. "Quiet is good," Ilara replied without turning. "Quiet means stability. The Empire thrives on stability." The bridge hummed with the soft sounds of equipment, the crew going through their standard procedures with practiced efficiency. The Galactic Empire had maintained its borders for over 3 centuries, expanding methodically through diplomacy and, when necessary, calculated military actions. The outer quadrant had been peaceful for decades, the indigenous species either incorporated into the Imperial structure or relegated to protected observation status. The silence of routine was shattered by a subtle alert tone. "Commander," Krell said, his voice shifting instantly to alertness, "I'm picking up an anomaly at bearing 227 Mark 19. Distance, approximately 6 light minutes." Ilara turned from the viewport. "Classification." "Working on it," Krell replied, his fingers now moving with purpose across the console. "It's strange. The signature doesn't match any known vessel in our database." "Show me." The main holographic display activated at the center of the bridge, depicting a 3-dimensional tactical map of the surrounding space. A small red icon blinked at the indicated coordinates, moving steadily through the void. "Magnify," Ilara ordered. The display zoomed in, revealing a vessel unlike any in the Imperial registry. It had a sleek, asymmetrical design with no visible propulsion systems, at least none that conformed to Imperial technology. Its hull was midnight black, with subtle blue accents that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. "Are they broadcasting any identification?" Ilara asked, circling the display with growing concern. "No, Commander. No transponder signal, no communication attempts. Open a general hailing frequency." Communications Officer Tarn nodded, his 4-fingered hands adjusting controls. "Channel open, Commander." Ilara straightened her uniform and spoke clearly. "Attention, unidentified vessel. This is Lieutenant Commander Ilara Voss of the Imperial patrol ship Vigilance. You are approaching restricted space. Identify yourself and state your intentions immediately." They waited. 20 seconds passed. 30. A full minute. "No response, Commander," Tarn confirmed. "Try all standard frequencies and protocols. Perhaps their communication systems are incompatible with ours." While Tarn worked through various contact attempts, Krell continued analyzing the vessel. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy readings. Their power signature is. It's off the charts, but somehow contained. I've never seen anything like it." Ilara's expression darkened. "Weapon status. Inconclusive. I can't determine their offensive capabilities, but they're not charging any recognizable weapon systems. And they're heading." Krell paused, double-checking his readings. "They're on a direct course for the Centauri Gateway." The Centauri Gateway, the main hyperspace junction connecting the outer territories to the Empire's core worlds. A strategic location that, if compromised, could expose billions of Imperial citizens to potential threat. "Calculate their speed," Ilara ordered, her voice tight. Krell's eyes widened as he processed the data. "They're traveling at. This can't be right." He recalibrated his instruments. "Commander, they're moving at 0.4 C in normal space, without any detectable propulsion system. Almost half the speed of light without apparent thrust or a hyperspace jump. It should have been impossible. Send priority Alpha alert to Sector Command," Ilara said immediately. "We have a potential incursion situation." As Tarn transmitted the alert, Ilara studied the mysterious vessel. In her 15 years of service, she had encountered smugglers, pirates, and even the occasional rogue state testing Imperial borders. But this was different. This felt monumental. "They're accelerating," Krell announced, his voice rising with disbelief. "Now at 0.5 C. 0.55 C, still increasing." "Pursuit course," Ilara commanded. "Maximum sustainable speed." The Vigilance surged forward, its engines pushing to their limits as they attempted to maintain visual tracking of the intruder. But despite the patrol ship's considerable capabilities, the gap between them widened steadily. "We can't match their velocity," the helmsman reported. "We're at maximum safe speed, and they're still pulling away." Before Ilara could respond, Tarn called out, "Commander, incoming transmission from Sector Command. Admiral Korik is responding personally to our alert." The holographic display shifted, and the stern visage of Admiral Rennick Korik appeared. A veteran of the Orion conflict and architect of the Empire's current border security protocol, Korik's presence signaled the seriousness with which Command was taking the situation. "Lieutenant Commander Voss," he began without preamble, "your report has been received. Maintain observation, but do not engage. I am deploying the Fifth Fleet to intercept. Transmit all sensor data on the unidentified vessel immediately." "Yes, Admiral," Ilara acknowledged. "Sir, request permission to continue pursuit. We can at least." "Negative, Commander," Korik interrupted. "The Vigilance is not equipped to handle unknown technology of this caliber. Your ship would be at unnecessary risk. Maintain your position and continue monitoring. The Fifth Fleet will arrive within 6 hours." As the transmission ended, Ilara turned back to the tactical display. The unidentified vessel was now just a distant signal, its impossible speed carrying it deeper into Imperial territory. "They'll be at the Centauri Gateway in 3 hours, Krell noted quietly, "before the fleet can intercept." "Then we better hope they're just passing through," Ilara replied, though her instincts told her otherwise. The Imperial Command Center on Nexus Prime buzzed with controlled urgency as Admiral Korik strode through the circular hall. Officers and analysts worked at various stations, their faces illuminated by the glow of tactical displays and data streams. "Status report," Korik demanded as he reached the central platform. Strategic Director Melny approached with a data tablet. "The unknown vessel continues on its trajectory toward the Centauri Gateway. Admiral, current speed calculated at approximately 0.7 C and still accelerating. We've never recorded anything moving that fast in normal space. What about identification? Do we have any theories on its origin?" Melny hesitated. "Intelligence is still analyzing the data, but there are some concerning possibilities." "Speak plainly, Director." "The vessel's design and energy signature bear some similarities to theoretical models developed by our Advanced Research Division. Models based on recovered artifacts from Earth." Korik's expression hardened. "Earth, a quarantined world on the far edge of the galaxy, inhabited by a species deemed too aggressive and unpredictable to be allowed free interstellar travel. The Empire had established a containment perimeter around their solar system 3 centuries ago, with automated monitoring stations ensuring they remained isolated until they either destroyed themselves or evolved into a more stable society." "That's impossible," Korik said flatly. "Our last assessment placed human technology at early interplanetary development. They have limited presence on their moon and neighboring planet. They're nowhere near achieving this level of propulsion. Unless our assessments were flawed," Melny suggested carefully, "or unless they've been concealing their true capabilities." Korik turned to the main strategic display, where the Fifth Fleet's 16 warships were represented by blue markers converging toward the projected path of the intruder. "When will the blocking formation be in position?" 2 hours, Admiral, but at the vessel's current speed." "I'm aware of the mathematics, Director," Korik interrupted. "We need to slow them down. Deploy the Cassini Gambit." Melny looked alarmed. Sir, that protocol has never been field-tested. The spatial distortion could potentially disrupt their propulsion system long enough for our ships to intercept. Korik finished. Deploy the satellites. Now, as Melny hurried to implement the order, Korik studied the trajectory of on the strategic display. The area ahead of the unidentified vessel flashed briefly as the Cassini Gambit engaged. For a moment, the vessel's signal flickered. It's working, someone called out. Their speed is decreasing. But the triumph was short-lived. The vessel's signal stabilized, and after a momentary deceleration, it resumed its former course. Impossible, Melny whispered. They just adapted. The distortion field should have worked against any known technology. Korik finished. So this human vessel not only penetrated our borders undetected, summarized Grand Minister Vela, her luminescent skin pulsing with agitation, but also bypassed our most advanced defensive measures and is now somewhere within our core systems. That is correct, Minister, Korik replied stiffly. And we have no way to track it. Our long-range sensors detected its energy signature approaching the Arcturus nexus before it disappeared completely. We believe they may have some form of stealth technology that renders them invisible to our detection systems once they reduce speed. The Emperor finally spoke, his voice quiet but carrying the weight of 5 decades of rule. What do we know about the humans that might explain this sudden evolution in their capabilities? Director of Imperial Intelligence, Soren Kith, activated the central holographic display. The 3-dimensional image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly, surrounded by data streams. Majesty, the containment directive for Earth was established 312 standard years ago, following the third contact assessment. At that time, humans were deemed a Level 2 civilization, capable of limited space travel within their own system, but nowhere near achieving interstellar flight. Kith manipulated the display, showing historical images of early human spacecraft, primitive, chemical-propelled vessels that seemed laughably obsolete compared to Imperial technology. Regular monitoring has shown steady but unremarkable progress. Their colonization of their moon and neighboring planet Mars proceeded as expected. Their development of artificial intelligence and quantum computing aligned with standard evolutionary patterns for technological species. Nothing in our observations suggested they had achieved the kind of propulsion system we witnessed yesterday. Then clearly our observations were flawed, snapped Council Member Drezik, the reptilian representative of the Soren Confederation, or they deliberately concealed their true advancement. Kith nodded reluctantly. That appears to be the case. We're conducting a complete review of all monitoring data from the past century, looking for anything we might have missed. And what of the vessel itself? Asked the Emperor. This Phoenix. Admiral Korik took over the briefing again. Based on our limited scans, it appears to utilize a form of gravitational manipulation we've only theorized about. They don't push against space, they pull it toward them, creating a cascading wave effect that allows for speeds approaching light without the relativistic consequences. That's impossible, stated Science Minister Lauren. The energy requirements alone would exceed anything we can currently generate. Korik finished. Yes, yet they've done it, and their defensive capabilities are equally advanced. They deflected concentrated fire from 5 heavy cruisers without apparent effort. A heavy silence fell over the council chamber as the implications sank in. For centuries, the Empire had maintained its dominance through technological supremacy. Now, a supposedly primitive species had demonstrated technology that surpassed their understanding. What was the message? The Emperor asked suddenly. Majesty. The human captain, Santos, was it? Said they came with a message. What was it? Korik shifted uncomfortably. They didn't elaborate, Your Majesty. They simply stated their intention to deliver it to the core worlds. The Emperor's eyes narrowed slightly. Not to us specifically, to the core worlds. Interesting. Before anyone could respond to this observation, an urgent alert sounded. The chamber's security chief approached the Emperor and whispered something in his ear. The ancient ruler's expression remained impassive, but he straightened almost imperceptibly. "It seems," the Emperor announced to the Council, "that we are about to receive the message in person. The Phoenix has appeared in orbit around Nexus Prime." Captain Elena Santos stood alone in the Phoenix's transport chamber, making final adjustments to her formal uniform. At 43, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had earned her position through merit rather than politics. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical braid, and her olive-toned face showed the subtle signs of a life spent in space, slightly hollowed cheeks from years in varying gravity, and eyes that had seen too many wonders to be easily impressed. "Final approach confirmed, Captain," came the voice of her first officer, Commander Asher Chen, over the ship's comm. "Imperial Palace has granted landing clearance for our shuttle. They're not happy about it, but they're not shooting at us either." Elena smiled slightly. "Well, that's progress. Have the diplomatic package ready for transmission on my signal, and keep our special systems on standby. I doubt they'll try anything in their own capital, but let's not take chances." "Understood." "And Elena," Asher's normally professional tone softened slightly, "be careful down there. 300 years of isolation and propaganda. They might not be ready for what we represent." "That's precisely why I'm going in person," Elena replied. "Some messages need a human face." Minutes later, Elena piloted the Phoenix's shuttle through Nexus Prime's atmosphere. The Imperial capital spread below her, a sprawling metropolis of impossible architecture, where gravity-defying spires rose miles into the sky and artificial waterways cut geometric patterns between districts. It was both beautiful and intimidating, a physical manifestation of the Empire's power and technical prowess. Or what they thought was technical prowess, Elena reminded herself. The shuttle landed on a designated platform extending from the upper levels of the Imperial Palace. A delegation awaited her, uniformed officials and security personnel, with Admiral Korik at their head. His expression was carefully neutral, but Elena could sense the tension in his posture. As she descended the shuttle ramp alone, Elena took a moment to appreciate the historical significance of the moment. The first human to set foot on the Imperial capital in the 3 centuries since Earth had been quarantined from the wider galaxy. "Captain Santos," Korik greeted her formally. "The Emperor and High Council await your message." Elena nodded, keeping her own expression pleasant but reserved. "Thank you, Admiral. I look forward to addressing them." The walk through the palace corridors was clearly designed to impress, or intimidate, visitors. Ceilings soared hundreds of feet overhead, supported by columns of material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Guards in ceremonial armor stood at attention, their weapons ornate but undoubtedly functional. Elena noticed how palace staff and officials stopped to stare as she passed. Many had probably never seen a human in person before. In their educational materials, humans were likely portrayed as primitive, violent creatures barely worth notice, if they were mentioned at all. The council chamber doors, massive panels of what appeared to be a single piece of carved crystal, swung open silently as they approached. Elena took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders as she entered the heart of the empire that had kept her people isolated for 3 centuries. The chamber was impressive, she had to admit. The dome overhead showed what seemed to be a real-time view of space, with stars and distant nebulae shifting slowly across its surface. The council members sat around a circular table of some black material that absorbed light, with the Emperor on an elevated throne that nonetheless didn't seem ostentatious. "Captain Elena Santos of Earth," announced a court official, "commander of the vessel Phoenix." Elena stepped forward, standing at the center of the chamber where all could see her. She looked directly at Emperor Tavros, offering a respectful nod, but not the deep bow that Imperial protocol likely demanded of visitors. "Your Majesty, honored council members, thank you for receiving me." The Emperor studied her with ancient eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. "You have gone to extraordinary lengths to deliver a message, Captain Santos, after bypassing our containment measures, evading our fleet, and appearing unannounced above our capital world. It must be quite important. Elena didn't flinch under his gaze. It is, Your Majesty. Though I should clarify that we didn't bypass your containment measures recently. Earth has been free of your quarantining for over a century. Murmurs broke out among the council members. Admiral Korik stepped forward, his controls slipping. That's impossible. Our monitoring stations have been receiving exactly the data we wanted them to receive. Elena finished calmly. A carefully constructed fiction showing a Earth developing at the pace you expected. Meanwhile, the real Earth proceeded along a very different path. She activated a small device on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, similar to their own technology, but somehow sharper, more defined. It showed Earth, but not as the Council had been viewing it. This Earth was surrounded by massive orbital structures, with ships coming and going in organized patterns. This is Earth today, Elena explained. Home to 12 billion humans, with another 8 billion living throughout our solar system. We achieved faster than light travel 70 years ago, though we continued to develop alternative methods as well, including the gravitational wave drive that powers the Phoenix. She manipulated the display, showing more of human space, a network of 17 fully terraformed worlds spanning what the Empire would consider 3 sectors, connected by transit routes and communication relays. But our expansion has been cautious and quiet, Elena continued. We remembered the Empire's judgment of our species. Too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to join galactic society. So we decided to prove that assessment wrong before revealing ourselves. We built a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest, on sustainable growth rather than exploitation. The Emperor leaned forward slightly. If what you say is true, and I have many reasons to doubt it, then why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue your secret development? Elena's expression grew more serious. Because the galaxy is changing, Your Majesty, and not for the better. With another gesture, the holographic display shifted to show what appeared to be the edge of the galaxy. And something else, something vast and dark, distorting the starlight around it. We call them the Void Collective, Elena explained. They exist partially outside normal space-time, which is why your sensors haven't detected them yet. But they're approaching, and they consume everything in their path. Matter, energy, even the fabric of space itself. Complete silence fell over the council chamber as the implications sank in. Our scientists estimate they will reach the outer systems of the Empire within 5 years, Elena continued. Conventional weapons and defenses will be useless against them. We know. We've already had skirmishes with their advanced scouts. Science Minister Lauren found her voice. If this is true, why come to us? Why not simply protect your own territory? Elena smiled slightly. Because despite 3 centuries of isolation, we still consider ourselves part of this galaxy. Because despite your judgment of our species, we believe in cooperation over conflict. And because, frankly, neither humanity nor the Empire can face this threat alone. She deactivated the holographic display, the chamber seeming darker in its absence. That is my message, Your Majesty. Not a declaration of war, not a demand for reparations over our isolation, an offer of alliance against a common threat. The Emperor was silent for a long moment, studying Elena with unreadable eyes. Finally, he spoke. And if we refuse this alliance, then we will respect your decision, Elena replied without hesitation. We'll continue our preparations alone, and we'll defend what worlds we can when the void arrives. But I hope you won't refuse. For all our sakes. Another long silence fell over the chamber. Then, slowly, the Emperor rose from his throne, a gesture so rare that several council members gasped audibly. He descended the steps until he stood directly before Elena, close enough that she could see the subtle patterns in his ceremonial robes, the ancient wisdom in his eyes. 300 years ago, he said quietly, my ancestor judged humanity too dangerous to join galactic society. It seems that judgment was both right and wrong. You were dangerous, but perhaps not in the way we feared. He turned to address the council. We will verify Captain Santa's claims about this void collective. But regardless of that threat, it is clear that our understanding of humanity was flawed. The containment directive is hereby suspended, pending a full reassessment. He looked back at Alina. And we will consider your offer of alliance, Captain. Not just against this new threat, but for the future beyond it. Alina nodded, allowing herself a small smile. That's all we ask, Your Majesty. As she was escorted from the chamber, Alina sent a subtle signal through her wrist device to the Phoenix in orbit. Commander Chen would now be transmitting the complete data package on the Void Collective to Imperial intelligence, along with technical specifications for technologies that could help the Empire prepare. It was a gamble, sharing so much with an empire that had judged them unworthy of galactic citizenship, but Alina believed it was time for humanity to emerge from the shadows, to take their place among the stars not as conquerors, but as partners. As she boarded her shuttle for the return journey to the Phoenix, Alina gazed out at the Imperial capital gleaming below. Change was coming to the galaxy, terrifying change in the form of the approaching void, but perhaps positive change as well. The Empire would need to adapt, to recognize that their careful ordering of galactic society had blinded them to both threats and opportunities. And humanity. They would finally have the chance to prove what Alina had always believed, that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or resilience, but their capacity to reach out, even to those who had once rejected them. The shuttle lifted off, rising through Nexus Prime's atmosphere toward the waiting Phoenix. Behind her, the Empire began the difficult process of reimagining a galaxy where humans were not isolated primitives, but equals, perhaps even leaders, in the challenges to come. And somewhere beyond the edge of the galaxy, the Void continued its inexorable approach, indifferent to the political realignments its existence had triggered. The true test of both humanity and empire still lay ahead, but for the first time in centuries, they would face it together.